I've talked a lot about the John Wick series and also a lot of films that director Stahelski has worked on, so I thought maybe it was time to ask him about them. So Chad, let us start with an incredibly broad topic. Would you talk about what led to you becoming a part of the action cinema world?
I'm originally from the East Coast of the United States. So I was always into martial arts as a kid. Old Jackie Chan movies or Shaw Brothers movies on VHS. We'd always watch James Bond on Sundays. Old Steve McQueen movies and Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin. And cut to, I was fortunate enough to get into the University of Southern California, Los Angeles. At the time, we all knew very well that Dan Inosanto, one of Bruce Lee's students, was teaching in Marina Del Rey in California. So while I was going to school, I would take, any night I had off or weekends and go train down there. And through that place, I met some of the Hollywood stuntmen that were training there to get their martial arts skills done. I was 6'1", I was a good size. At the time, we were training with a friend of mine, Brandon Lee, who was Bruce Lee's son. And he was just getting into acting at the same time. And it was one day where Brandon Lee came up to him and said, hey, I got, this audition for this. It was at Showdown in Little Tokyo at the time, and I need to put some stuff on tape. We asked one of the stunt coordinators there, a guy named Jeff Amata, who had been doing all the big martial art movies back then. Hey, how do you get into stunts? What it is? And he kind of put us in the right direction. I was super fortunate. I was the crossover generation between analog and digital, from just all practical stunts to going through the visual effects, the internet, the digital world, going into this. A good friend of mine, Dave Leach, who did Hobbs and Shaw and Deadpool 2. Sam Hargrave, who just did Extraction. Sam's a little behind us in generation, but the group that Dave and I came out in, that was a really cool time in Hollywood. We had to know how to do it practically and what the cool camera tricks were, how to find the best car driver who actually had to slide the car all around so we couldn't just digitally stitch it. Not that I mind how we do it now. You can get much more exciting shots and much safer shots with the digital blurs and the blends we can do, but it still gave us an appreciation for how to do it practically and how to figure things out. And that kind of led to the first Matrix, which, if you want to talk about going to film school, they're visually stunning directors. But as far as like intelligence and process, and they knew everybody's job as good as they did.
Only human.
Dodge this.
They put every bit as much emphasis on camera and color and sound and music and wardrobe and hair. Through the Matrix, we realized that it's not just a bunch of moves put together. It's dance. It is literally dance. And that's what the Wachowskis and Ewan McGregor were very good at. And that's kind of how I learned, and there was no one else really doing it. So we started a company called 8711. We built this team of 20-odd guys, some of the best martial artists we could find, and taught them all how to dance and choreograph. You've been to a ballet or a dance show before, right?
I have.
When you go to anything like that, you got to remember, that's an hour and a half. Think about the number of moves they have to remember. Hundreds. Now, I know it sounds weird, but in our business, to find stunt guys that can remember 20 moves is a rare thing. So we thought that was one of the first problems. People don't realize that when you see the fight scenes, especially in like a Matrix or something like that, there are literally 300-400 moves for the lead guy. The cast has to remember moves, just like you have to remember lines. And then they have to act, and shit's blowing up, and people are trying to hit you with a sword. The first thing we had to do is train stuntmen and cast members to memorize moves, to see it, recognize it, and learn it quickly. So we break everything down into motion patterns, just like a professional ballet coach would do. So we kind of break down the system and then build it back up, and that's how we get so much cast. That's why we had all the Marvel accounts, the DC accounts. We were just better, not really at choreographing, I mean, that's perspective, but I feel fairly calm to say we're probably some of the best at training cast to do choreography.
As you said, you and your team were probably some of the best at training the cast, but would you say that also just by spending so much time around performers that you learned a lot from them about performance and then in turn directing performance?
We'll spend anywhere from 8 weeks to 25 weeks with the cast, training them so you see them every day. It does give you that insight because people are a lot more relaxed in the gym, and then once they get confident in the motions, they start acting. They start trying to project their character into the choreography and the training. When I sat in the director's chair, now it's like, okay, I got this. And acting is a whole nother level from that. But I did try to think back. I think the first couple of days I was actually directing, it was a fucking catastrophe. Because you're still learning. When you're directing, you have to speak a lot of languages. Meaning, if you're talking to the cinematographer, you have to talk lighting. If he wants to know how do you want this lit, what's the mood. When you talk to wardrobe, yes, they're not asking you how bitchin' the shot is. They want to know how many sets of wardrobe, do the colors clash with the set design. Like, you talk a cast, you got to speak cast, you got to speak actor. So it was a good in to see how much more I needed to learn. Honestly, I talked several times about Keanu about it because like Dave and I both got a little nervous on the first wave. We're like, okay, look, holy shit, we got William Dafoe, we got Ian McShane, we got Lance Reddick. We definitely want to get the most out of our cast. So like, what's a cool way to talk to him? And we spent a lot of nights over a glass of scotch talking to Keanu. And then as we got to know Willem, we talked to Willem. And as we got to know Ian, you try different things with each person. And if you're a good director, or if you want to be a good director, you sit, you learn, you listen, you watch, you pick up what you can from every cast member. Just when I talked to one of the cast members, like, look, this is what I feel it is. This is kind of how I see it going. What do you feel? Okay, I understand that. I was thinking a little bit more. And you try to create this collaboration.
We'll be even.
You have to find that together.
No. After this, we are less than even.
Now to move away from your first unit directing for a bit to your action and second unit direction days, could you discuss that period of your career and the process of how you worked within it?
The stunt industry and the film industry, it's not as organized as you may think. You're kind of known for something, or you're known for your past things, and they call you. Again, you're talking about the transition time between pre-Marvel, post-Matrix, where everyone's still trying to figure out this new digital superhero, Matrix, martial art kind of world. And there wasn't a lot of names that could function on big martial art movies. So if you're Jason Statham or Seagal or Stallone, you'd be, oh, call that guy Chad. He did the mate. He must kind of know what he's doing. So they would call, and then, so say right now, Ross, you call me, you go, Chad, I want to do your movie. That's great, but we just want you to be the choreographer. I would turn that job down. There's no benefit for me to put a couple moves together. We would take the jobs that allowed us, one, the director kind of knew what he was doing. He wanted more than he knew how to do. He wanted something cool. Unsafe. The director was like, look, I care about story. I'm not an action guy. So he would ask Jason, what do I do? Who's the guy? And Jason, well, you got to get Chad. You got to get his team. So I go and I meet the director and said, just so you know, this is how we work. And you talk about process. And you invite the director, the main director, to be as much part of it as he wants to be. Or you say, hey, man, I'll see you in 6 weeks. I'll shoot this. Luckily, most of the directors I work with want to be collaborative and be in there and put their creative ideas in it and actually learn. And it helps me learn the other side, too. Good action is a process. It's not me. I can help run you through that process. I can help guide you through that process. But if you take my moves, or even if me and my team come and choreograph for you and then back out, it's still up to the director, still up to the editor, still up to the VFX. Like, there's a lot that can go fucking wrong. That's why there's these shitty action movies. Like, you've got to buy into the process. So you talk about something like Safe, it was a smaller movie. But, like, they let me pick the entire stunt team. They let me choreograph it. They let us shoot all the previses. And again, knowing the director is still going to want to put his timing and pacing on it, we would shoot it in a way to give him options so that he wasn't screwed editorially. Jason, every weekend, every day he wasn't on set, he was training with the stunt teams to get better and better and better and better. And those are the jobs we kind of always took. So whether they were working for Millennium doing Conan or Expendables or a Marvel movie, anything that gave us that magic mix of our probability of success of doing cool action is up, those are the gigs we took. And that's really the main selection process even today. Dave and I were offered much bigger budgets than the first John Wick. The probability of doing something different was very, very thin.
Well, I think I speak for everyone in saying how glad we are that you did go for that smaller action film to begin with as a director. What really stands out for me action-wise is the clarity of it all. You can follow it so easily without having really long shots. It is simply crafted well. Now, in contrast to that, obviously you have worked on some films by directors with arguably less action experience that did depend quite heavily on overly fast editing and shaky cam. How did you feel about that? How was that for you?
Love Simon, love Gary Ross, love Francis Lawrence, love Guy Ritchie. Look, those guys all have their vibe. Like, as a second unit guy, you can get hired in collusion with the director. And, like, there are times where we're just brought in to literally get a bunch of cool shit and hand it off. I can shoot and choreograph what I think is a Picasso of action. And it's still up to the director and, you know, studio and producers how that comes together. So let's just assume you get that far. We've handed in something that could be edited very well. A lot can still go wrong. And, you know, that's unfortunately the majority rather than the minority.
So what is the key when, depending on second unit or having separate teams handle the action, to making the film still feel cohesive between the drama and action?
The director's got to be part of it. Wachowski's, Guy Ritchie, even Stallone when he directed Expendables, or even on the Rambo I did with him. Like, that guy, he was directing, acting in it. You know, you had to go to the gym to keep his, you know, you're talking about an older guy now who's, like, still in great shape, showing up every Saturday and Sunday, see what I was doing. He fucking cared about his movie. You will run into directors or people that are trying to direct, and they're just like, some guys will figure it out. Stunt teams aren't directors. You still have to direct, like, it's your fucking job. But there are actually first units out there, and some movies that would shock you, where the second unit or the action guy doesn't even meet the first unit guy.
I've spoken in the past about that divide, where the action feels different from the rest of the film. Can you speak to that based on your first-hand experience of working on films with that divide and without?
That's a Hollywood thing now. Action, story. They're split right down the line. But I bet you any action movie that you love does not have that division.
So how about on a film like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where Yuen Woo-ping handled much of the action? That film still felt totally cohesive.
A great example. Yuen Woo-ping set up all those shots, set up the wire work. Ang Lee was right next to him the whole time.
So it's all about learning there, respecting the director and respect from the director for the process. I really hope we return more to that on bigger blockbusters. I want to go back to John Wick a bit, as one thing that stands out to me again is the quality of action, and especially your use of subtle or even unnoticeable CGI to augment what is being pulled off. You're not depending entirely on fully CGI sequences, but instead merging practical and CGI.
Totally. I'm into the sleight of hand mentality. Before CG was really common, and what was... Remember those discussions you used to have with friends, like, that was real. No, it wasn't. Jackie really did that. No. Like, that was cool. When's the last time that you honestly went, wow, that's really fucking cool, like you were blown away? We've all gotten, as an audience, so educated. When you saw Matrix, you were literally blown away by ramping in bullet time. Now, that's fucking TV shows doing it.
The work that really stands out as pretty awe-inspiring in the third film was the sequences involving animals.
Those are all real dogs. The horse really did do that kick. That's not a digital horse lick. It's a hit. How we comped it together with the stunt guy, that took the artistry of our VFX vendor. You know, when you don't notice it, it's always the best, I think. You come up with the way that you haven't seen, and then if I can subtly tweak you with CG, that's great.
I'd love to talk about your process when it comes to actually developing a John Wick film or action film in general. What stands out to so many is the world building and the set pieces, for example, but also the return to a more classic hard man on a mission tale. Where do you start when coming up with the story and structure for such a film?
I have great set piece ideas, I have great action ideas, I have great character ideas. There's a particular cast member I've been trying to work with since just a beginning action director. That individual is going to be in the next John Wick, so like that character's been in my head for 20 years. A big part of the story is written around this guy. The story came to me because of this cast member and how they're going to relate to John Wick. Like, that's huge. There's been set pieces that I couldn't either afford to do or have access to or just didn't fit in the other that I'm going to use. So to answer your question, I always start with thematics, whether it's, you know, a Japanese fable or story or Asian-esque or Greek or something like that. I like the fables or operatic 3-act story structure. To me is cool. Just for the Wicks, it seems to work better if it's 2-act or 4-act. You know, man on a mission, done. Or man on a mission, follows a mission, another mission, go to that kind of structure. I go, look, it's a story about fate. Okay, what are the cool things we can do with fate? There's the plot-motivated movies, and then there's story-motivated. I go with the story.
You pissed, John? Yeah.
Like Kill Bill. There isn't really a scene in that movie that you need, but every scene is fun. It's a story. You're following this wacky, nutty adventure, and Tarantino has a gift to make every single scene fun. Like, the Wicks are supposed to entertain. So I'm not trying to think how to get Wick from point A to point B or what is he do. Like, I want you to enjoy him watching in the desert getting thrown over a camel. Does it make any fucking sense? Nope. But neither does being in a glass house. Nope. It's entertaining. But there's other things I want to do that don't follow that recipe.
On that subject, what do you maybe want to explore next? Or perhaps what do you think in action we haven't seen yet that you'd like to explore?
Reality. Think of the last time you saw a realistic fight scene or car chase. Everything you know about martial arts or fighting or confrontation or gun work is in movies, or sword fighting, right? 99% of that 95% is incorrect. So where's the reality? Like, have you ever seen a real sword fight? Have you ever seen a real gunfight? They're terrifying. When's the last time you felt terrified? Saving Private Ryan? You know, Heat? One of the strongest things, like, I know I'm supposed to be the stunt guy and the martial art guy and all that stuff, but like, if you can make me tear up a little bit, I'm like, that is the thing all men hold on to the hardest. Like, we don't want to cry. So if you can push me that far, you fucking nailed it. You know, whether that's via action when you do something like Saving Private Ryan, or is it self-sacrifice like Kurt Russell in Backdraft where he gives his life for something big? Like, and I only say ground the action in reality because I want to feel consequence. You know, in the John Wick world, we get so numbed by our heroes taking 115 guys with headshots. There's no consequence to that. So I'd like to go 180 fucking degrees the other way, you know? So I don't know, that'd be a challenge. That'd be a big challenge.
I don't think I'm alone in saying seeing you create absolutely terrifying gunfights and car chases would be something to behold, and probably tear up over. Thank you so much, Chad, and all the best of luck with the 4th John Wick film. I hope you all enjoyed that. I do want to say quickly that you may have noticed a drop in the frequency of videos from this channel. I can only say that I am busy, but also that there are some very exciting things coming up soon. Videos like this take a lot of planning and editing, but frankly I find the more complex ones way more interesting, and I expect many of you enjoy this format. Rossatron is always going to be an evolving platform for my work, and I'll be revealing more soon of what is next for this action celebration space. See you soon.